Yeah, that's pretty crazy to me. All right, guys, you know how I always talk about how important it is to look back on your progress and appreciate how far you've come? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna do today. So I have here a portrait that I did of Kara back in September, and that's give or take 6 or 7 months ago from the shooting of this video. But me being the self-absorbed person that I am, I was scrolling back on my Instagram feed and I was looking at some of my old portraits, and I came across this one, which at the time was one of my favorite paintings, and it was one of my favorite paintings for a very long time. And then I saw it again and I was like, I feel like over the past 6 or 7 months, there are a lot of things that I've learned from just drawing consistently every single day. And there are things that I would do differently now about this painting. And on top of that, this piece was originally just gonna be a fun expression study, but Kara has become a character and has taken on a life of her own. So there's a lot more to this now than what I intended it to be back when I painted it in September. So I thought, hey, it'd be pretty cool to revisit this piece and this character and the painting that basically started her entire journey. So let's dive into this. Pulled up a portrait of Kara that I did pretty recently, and I think that's a good representation of what she's supposed to look like now. There are some things that I think I want to fix. There are also technical things that I used to do back then that I don't really like now. So if we zoom in on this painting that I did 6 months ago, you can see there are a lot of textures happening. Okay, you see this like grainy kind of texture in the hair there, this graininess in the face. That's because of a brush that I was using back then that I was a big fan of, and it was almost like the exclusive brush that I used. But nowadays I find myself using just the basic round brush for skin because there's no extra noise, there's no extra things that I gotta deal with. It's just simple and straight to the point. So I might go over the skin with a round brush to kind of take out some of these unnecessary textures and noise because I'm not a huge fan of that now. There were some areas that I think I did pretty well in, which is like the highlight on the lips. That's really natural looking, and the highlight on the eye right there. I think that looks great. The way the shadow was cast onto the hair, I think that's a really natural look as well. So that's pretty good. But there are areas where like there's all this sketchy stuff going on. Like, yes, it's a look, but it's not the look that I want to go for now. And yeah, some of these edges are a little bit too soft now, like right there. It's kind of like blending together, as well as on the hair. I think we're mostly gonna try to sharpen this up a little bit and also try to make her look more like the way she looks now. Pretty excited to see how this turns out. Yeah, with that being said, let's do this thing. And I've mentioned this before, but the liquify tool is super useful for when you have a rendered piece that you want to make some small adjustments to without destroying the rendering. You know, it's really easy to move things around and readjust the proportions to your liking. So I made the hair a little bit bigger because I think the original had a bit of a small head. And the skin tone is a little bit too pinkish. See if I can tweak this a little bit. Yeah, you see how the original was like almost purple looking? I think that's better. Brightness and contrast, better. So now what I'm doing is I'm going over the skin tone a little bit with a round brush to kind of brush out some of these textures that I don't really want. And I also want to blend in some of the hard edges on the skin here because not all of them really made sense. And my colors back then were a lot less vibrant than they are now. So we're gonna have fun fixing that up. I think back then I also had the tendency to not shift the color of the eyes, the whites of the eyes, enough to the cool range, so they always looked kind of bloodshot. Things are so unclear, you know, like if I zoom in all the way to the eyes here, look at all of these different brush strokes merging together. It's like a lot of noise that I don't think is needed. And I think a part of this comes from me just not being as confident with portraits back then as I am now. But nowadays, you know, like why do loud brush strokes when few brush strokes do trick? see this? Look at this eye. Look at this eye. That's confidence. I think back then I was more focused on just trying to stylize and trying to learn how to stylize things, and the way that I put down the brush strokes wasn't a huge concern to me. But now, I think I'm more comfortable with stylization, so I've had time to actually really start to observe the way I put down certain brush strokes and the way they look on the paintings. And honestly guys, if you feel like you're losing motivation or you're just not making enough progress, just look back on things you've done before and think about what are some of the things that you would do differently about those pieces. And those things that you would do differently is going to tell you how much you've actually grown as an artist. It's always good to look back. You know, I think looking back really makes you appreciate how far you've come over a certain period of time. You know, art is similar to working out in the sense that you don't really see progress in just a span of a couple weeks or a month or 2 months. But if you stay consistent, you keep doing it, you keep pushing through, before you know it, you're gonna be looking back at the pieces you made before and you're gonna be thinking, what was I doing back then? And that's a really good feeling. It's just like taking before and after pictures of when you're working out. You know, you look back, maybe you're like a scrawny little kid, and 2 years later, you're like, but yeah, improving in art is such a slow process that if you don't look back at where you came from, sometimes you might completely lose sight of just how much you've actually learned. It is such a grind, and it really is a process that cannot be rushed. But doing this is a great way to check just how much your style has changed and how differently you do things now compared to what you did before. You know, I've basically had to touch up every single area because I don't like the way that I used to do the brush strokes, so this is almost like painting an entirely new painting. I feel like one of the biggest differences in what I do now is just the amount of confidence that I have compared to what I did before, and that confidence just comes from practicing day in and day out and knowing what I'm drawing. I mean, I'm happy with where I'm at right now, but I know I've still got a long way to go. I'm just thinking of this as a bit of a progress update on my artistic journey. I think we're pretty good now, just adding in some final touches and then I'm going to finish this piece up. Okay guys, that's about enough edits for this piece. Now let's do a before and after. I mean, just yeah, that's pretty crazy to me. It's been about 6 or 7 months since I've painted this old piece, and I mean, putting the new one on top of it and switching it on and off and taking a look at it this way, just, you know, it kind of just blows me away to see how much has actually changed and how many things that I do differently now compared to before. Like, I remember back when I painted this piece originally, and I remember like 2 months later, I looked back at it, I was like, it looks pretty good to me. Like, I don't know if there's anything that I would actually change about it, and I don't think there ever will be things that I will change about it. But you know, 6 months later, I look back at it again and it's like, oh, you know, there are so many things that don't sit right with me now. And it's a really humbling experience because, you know, back then I thought, hey, this is pretty good. But, you know, now I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know about that, Sam. I don't know about that. I've been wanting to revisit one of my old pieces for a long time, but you know, I kind of just keep painting new ones and putting new ones up on Instagram that I never really got a chance to do this. But now that I've done it, I feel really, really good about where I am right now. And I feel great about the progress that I've made. And I think this is just such a great way to make you really appreciate how much work you've put in and how far you've come. After this experience, I can definitely recommend going back and painting over your old pieces if you haven't done this already. It's a really, really good experience. And I think I'll be doing more of these in the future because I always want to appreciate how far I've come and how much I've learned. And I'm all about growing and constantly learning as an artist. So this is perfect for me. But yeah, that's about it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed actually seeing me go through this process with you guys. And if you want to see more digital art content just like this, feel free to subscribe to my channel. That'll help me out a lot. But other than that, I'll see you guys on the next video. Oh, thank God I actually recorded the screen. Could you imagine if I didn't record my screen this whole time? I would actually... If I opened up OBS just now and it was like, start recording, I would be like, that's crazy. You know, it's like actually crazy because back when I painted this, I thought, this is great. You know, this looks great. This is one of the better pieces that I painted in a long time. And I guess it's all relative. Like, it just doesn't stack up, you know, it just doesn't stack up to this one. But maybe in 6 months time from now, I'll be revisiting this piece and I'll be saying the same things about it. I mean, hopefully that's the case because that means growth and we're all about growth here. And a shameless plug, guys, I do monthly tutorials on my Patreon. Check that out, join the family. We have a Discord. We're very friendly, very wholesome. It's a nice community. Come join us.